Chapter 6. Roger Highborn, please. Room 337. Hello? Roger, it's Jeff. I am on my way. I'll meet you in an hour in your hotel lobby. That will be fine, Jeff. I look forward to seeing you. He paused before hanging up. Jeffrey, Meg will not be with you, will she? No, she will know only what you want her to know. With that statement, Roger rang off, and I went back to the computer and clicked on the print icon. I took a look around the room while the printer clicked off and grabbed the paper and said, "Door open." I took 2 steps at a time up the stairs to make up for the 5K run I had planned to do before meeting Roger. I told the garage door to open and backed the bathtub out in time to see a FedEx truck just pulling away from the house. I was not expecting anything, so whatever it was would have to wait. I pulled the Porsche into an open space by the front entrance of the Holiday Inn. I glanced at the sky as I put up the top, even though the sun was shining brightly. It always rains in Seattle. Better to be safe than sorry. Roger was standing by the restaurant entrance and extended his hand towards me, saying "Good morning" as I shook it. "I hope you left your day open." I looked at his eyes for the first time. I saw a cross of blue light in his eyes. It was a bit unnerving. It was a feeling much like when I am contemplating something and the light goes on in my head. He looked relieved when I told him that I had nothing planned that day. He motioned towards the restaurant door, where the din of early eaters drowned out all hopes of a quiet discussion. "Roger, do you mind if we just have coffee? I know of a coffee shop near Tom's office. It should be open." "Relieved," he said. "I'll follow you in my car, then you don't have to bring me back." As soon as they were seated, Jeffrey started. "Meg told me a bit about your travels in India. Your meeting Helen sounded fascinating. Can you fill me in a bit more, if you would?" Roger smiled, and again the tiny blue crosses appeared in his eyes. "It was when old Roy sent me to India. That's what we would call Dad because we shared the same name. Anyway, I was sent to run the company trading effort in India. One cannot go to the East without an open mind or understanding of their way of life. I studied Eastern philosophy in school for an easy A. However, I became fascinated and began to apply Eastern methods to my life and got results. The more I studied, the clearer my life became. My previous beliefs were slowly eroding away." As Roger talked, Jeffrey could see his mind slip into the past, recalling the details of his story. It didn't take me long to realize that I wanted to stay in India, and old Roy never dreamed that I would want to live there. He told me that the real future of the company was in trading commodities. He was an insightful guy when it came to business. He just wanted me to get hands-on experience in the field, but he was not prepared when I told him I wanted to stay in India for his plans for me were to run the company. He gave me an ultimatum. If I came back, he'd make me CEO of the company. However, if I stayed in India, I would leave with nothing, and he would give everything to my brother Earl. The problem was that Earl was only 25, and he would have to be sent to the Far East first in order to take over the company. I told Earl about the decision I faced and how it would affect him. Earl did not want to go to India. He was just about to get married. No way was he going to India. He came back to me not more than 2 hours later that day with a solution to our problem. My brother would quit the company and back me in a new trading company. He had all the faith in the world that it would be a success. He would then tell old Roy what a success I had made the company, and Dad would have to forgive me and welcome me back with open arms. We could then fold the new company into the family holdings. This is the kind of guy Earl was. He went out of his way to find a win-win solution for every dilemma. But, as you know, life is not so cut and dry when you're dealing with a person's ego. So he told old Roy that he was resigning from the company and going into business with me. We did not know it then, but something snapped inside Dad. Although he was furious that his 2 sons had bested him, he backed down from his original plan of throwing me out of the company and Earl going to the Far East. He showed no outward sign of his anger. But from that day forward, old Roy forgot we were his sons. In his mind, we were just opponents. He plotted his revenge to destroy us by believing we would have to come crawling back to him one day on his terms. The day I left for Bombay, he started his plan. He set up Earl to be away from his office. First, he changed his will and removed me and Earl as beneficiaries and left everything to a foundation he created under the guise of avoiding taxes so that he had no money or equity upon his death. He set up a blind trust to siphon off the receivables of the Indian companies, leaving no money to pay for the overhead expenses. Mother had her own holdings that were not subject to the scheme. Earl found out about Old Roy's sham and paid my expenses from Mom's funds. No one in the company, other than Old Roy, knew that Mother's holdings paid the expenses. Earl never told me that he and Mother had been paying my expenses and draining their reserves for 5 years to support the export company. Meg was 3, and Tom was around 2. I found out about this after I learned that Old Roy had died and rushed home. I called the office from the airport to tell Earl I was in town and to come pick me up. The phone picked up and there was a recorded message, a disconnection message with no forwarding telephone number. I grabbed a cab to the Highborn offices, and when I arrived, I was shocked to see that the office was now an insurance firm. I asked the guard in the lobby where Highborn Incorporated had moved. The guard asked, "Where have you been? They were declared bankrupt a few years ago." Just then I saw the janitor. When we were young, Earl and I would help Curly sweep the halls, and in return he would let us ride the floor polisher. I called out, "Curly, it's me, Roger." Curly was a bit thinner, but he still had that crooked smile. He looked at me with that smirk. Curly finally said, "Roger Highborn, I heard that you was in India." "Now, where did you hear that, Curly?" "Why, I saw your brother a couple of months ago. He lives not far from me." "What are you saying, Curly? He moved to your part of town?" "Yes, sir. Just after they closed this place. He, your mom, and his family moved. You really have been away. A lot of people say you took the company money and ran to India. I never believed a word of that nonsense." "What money?" "Earl had been running the company." Then it dawned on me. Earl had been hiding something from me, and I had to get to the bottom of it. "Curly, can you give me Earl's address? How long ago did they move?" Curly didn't smile. "You mean you didn't know what was going on?" "No, Curly, I've been running the company in India. I just got back this morning because I heard my father died. As for the company, all I know is what Earl tells me." Curly's skeptical look disappeared. "Sorry to hear that, Mr. Highborn," he continued. 300 Vine Street. I get off now. If you want, I can take you right to the house." "Thanks, but no, Curly, I have to go someplace else first." "You take care of yourself," Curly said. As he went back to mopping the floor, he muttered, "I knew it was someone else done this to the company. Try to make you look bad. You being in India and all. They figured you would never come back and defend yourself. I bet your father had something to do with the company closing. I knew he had it in for you when you left. He was always mumbling something awful about you and your brother when he was here late at night. He was a mean one, your father was. No disrespect, but he was a wrong one, that Mr. Highborn." I turned away to hide the shock of reality I was hit with and walked to the library a few blocks away. I sat in front of the microfiche reader, stunned as the headlines jumped out at me. I scanned the article. "Roger Highborn, Jr., accused of grand larceny, bankrupts Highborn Holdings. Oldest son of Roger Highborn was to be charged with embezzlement by the Highborn Board of Directors. But his younger brother, Earl, said he would make good on all missing funds. There was a mistake. Roger had been in India for the last 5 years. Funds were discovered missing when Mr. George Reedy, the president, reviewed the books. The board will drop all claims when the funds are returned. The company will go into receivership to pay off the huge debt to creditors." You can imagine my shock as I stood outside the 2 flat of the address Curly had given me, searching for some reason why Earl fostered this deception. I turned to see a woman pull into the driveway in a nondescript station wagon. I saw 2 kids clamber out of the back seat. It was Tom and Meg with their mother. Bobby was shocked when she saw me. "Roger, when did you get in?" Looking around me, she asked, "Where is Earl?" "What is going on here, Bobby?" I demanded. She looked toward the 2 flat. "We've lived here since things got bad. I don't want to talk in front of the children. Roger, here, take my car. You can find Earl here. She handed me her car keys and a business card with Earl's name on it. It was the same card I used. Apex Export Far East Importers, Earl Highborn, USA Director, 477 Stillwater Street, Seattle, Washington. Bobby, what is... Please go, Roger. He's there now. I just left him. He will tell you all that you want to know. I looked at her. She had lost that spoiled brat look. Because I want it. I should have it. She now had that haggard look of one who was trying to maintain a sense of dignity and make the best of a bad situation out of love. I need to think. I'll grab a cab. I returned her car keys and waved to the kids and repeated, "See you later." I walked west about 2 blocks and hailed a cab to the Stillwater Street address. Earl was waiting for me by the door to the warehouse. He nodded and hugged my shoulder weakly as he led me into the office. This was not the way I wanted you to find out, Roger. The truth is, old Roy went a bit mad when you turned him down, and he wanted to hurt all of us for helping you. So he siphoned off the receivables until he bled the company dry. When I found out about it, I thought it best to let you carry on as if nothing was wrong. Mom and I knew you would come running back here to try to make things right. But with Helen's illness, it was best that you stayed at her side. We knew the company would make a comeback after your direction, when you had time to put your attention to it. We were also right to back you. It's been the export business that has carried us. What did he die of? Heart failure. He was taking medication for the last 3 years, but his heart just gave out. There was no need to tell you because we knew he wouldn't take a call from you unless it was to beg for forgiveness, so we just kept you out of the loop. I was completely out of the loop. The sacrifices you put your family through to carry me. Now I come back and everyone thinks I'm a thief and cause a failure of everything we've worked for? Earl grabbed my shoulder and pressed hard. Listen, Roger. Think of this as an investment. Just like any other deal, you set the payback according to what you think you owe. Damn it, Earl, there is no way I can repay you for the sacrifices your family has made. Yes, you can. If ever the time comes, take care of my family as if it were your own. Knowing that I can count on you would be the greatest way you could ever repay me. Can you do that for me? You know that's a given, Earl. It doesn't change what happened to the company or what people think of me. Roger, you know as well as I do that there is nothing you can ever say that will change people's opinion of you based on what they think they know or what they have heard. The best thing for you to do is to go back to India and continue making profits for the company. I'll take care of the situation here. Besides, now that you've landed that China contract, it will take the pressure off of us here. We both smiled, genuinely, for the first time in such a long time. So I went back to India. I next saw Earl when he brought the kids to India shortly after Bobby and Mom died in a car accident. They were hit by a truck. The driver said he was trying to avoid a kid on a bike and ran head-on into them. Tom's kids stayed with me for summer break, and I was able to send them back with a new way to cope with what life had thrown at them. For a while, life was on automatic until Helen died. Then I studied and traveled the Far East until one day Earl called. He asked me to come back to help him run the company in the States because he was feeling poorly. So I came back and I took up the duties I had run away from so many years ago. I also took care of Tom's needs while he was attending Cornell University. Meg was hit harder by her father's death. She was just starting college and dropped out. She got a job at an art gallery where she met Brad. She and Brad married and had a son, George. They were a very happy family until Brad was killed in a car accident. Meg sold Brad's art gallery and kicked around with the proceeds from the sale. George, having no real family anymore, became a heavy user of drugs. Tom tried to help, but to no avail. The kid was hooked the minute he had his first shot of hard narcotics. I ran into Meg just after George was imprisoned for life. He had run over and killed an 8-year-old boy while under the influence of drugs. Wasn't that a harsh sentence? I said. Roger shot back. The kid was riding his bike on the sidewalk. Listen, enough background about me. You came here to find out about the murder glass and what it has to do with you.